Hey everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. I am out checking out the garden this morning and getting so excited because I think I finally passed all of the nighttime temperatures that will be below 50 degrees. So really that means it is time to get serious about planting out the summer garden. Now I've already got all of my tomatoes planted. I have peppers by the dozens ready to go outside, but they are much wimpier when it comes to cold weather. They just don't like it at all. Tomatoes aren't so great either, but if you put a little row cover or some protection on, they are a little more forgiving than peppers. But now I am looking at all of the different beds and trying to figure out where I want to put all of my peppers. But you know, honestly, what I'm most excited about is being able to take off some of these frost cloths and row covers. It just makes the garden look so messy and just not pretty at all. I love being able to see my plants and the flowers and things that are growing underneath. So rather than a series of canopies and tents, I want to see my plants, because that's what makes the garden so beautiful. And I know that it won't be too long until I have to put up shade cloth on everything, but for now I want to be able to see all of the spring flowers and the tomatoes starting to grow, and very soon the peppers in the ground. Let's get these row covers off because I am so done with that. Just look at these beds. They are so much better without the row covers. I took off the hoops too. Probably I will be using taller stakes or tomato baskets to attach that shade cloth to, so I don't need those hoops anymore. They're in my way and they're making my garden look less pretty, so I am proceeding forward without them. These onions are doing so well. Look at that. I've been a little bit worried about them because I had such a hard time with all of my onions bolting last year from the crazy temperatures, and that may actually be the case this year. Before they really bulb up, they may start to flower and bolt. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute in case you've never grown onions, but inconsistent temperatures, high highs and low lows all together really makes onions bolt. And once they flower, they just will not store well. So let's go look over here. If you grow an onion and you start seeing this is the formation of a flower, and this stem feels kind of like a really hard tube. And so that's not at all like the soft leaves that are really bendable. Here's another one here. So once this starts to happen, that bulb has switched its attention to flowering and forming seeds rather than contributing to more growth of the bulb. And that is just not going to store well. Those bulbs will probably rot in your pantry instead of storing for several months. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that those two onion beds are not going to do that. Here's some of my leeks. I was pretty late getting these planted, honestly. I'll probably put a shade cloth over these because they'll do pretty well. Leeks are pretty resilient to warmer temperatures, more so than onions, at least in my experience. And so I will probably still get pretty good leek harvest here. I've got leeks here, and I have leeks over in a couple of the other beds too. But you may notice, I'll link the onion video I did last year. I was harvesting so many onions last year. It was crazy. I actually had quite a few onions that were 3-pound onions, and they were really delicious. Those were the big yellow sweet onions. I had terrible luck last year with the red onions that I was growing bolting. Like pretty much all of them bolted. They did not even form a bulb. It was a fail, a total fail. So I actually didn't grow any red onions this year. So I have 3 varieties of onion this year: a sweet, a yellow, and a white. And so those did much better last year with our crazy wacko temperatures that we get here in the spring. So that's the ones that I chose to plant this year too. So these are actually going to be taking up these beds for a couple months again. I was actually referring to my Google Photos because sometimes that's really hard to remember and I'm not always great about keeping track. But it looks like May was when I was harvesting onions last year. So we've got another 6 weeks or so. As I'm looking at these onions, I can't imagine that they're going to form a bulb that quickly, but it's very surprising once it starts to warm up a bit and we start getting more consistent temperatures during the day and the night, those bulbs form really fast. So it's pretty amazing. The rutabagas are looking good, but they can get pretty big actually. So I've seen rutabagas that are like that big, and these are not going to get that big. These are the Navarone variety, and they are a yellow rutabaga. This is a new variety for me. I've grown rutabagas before, but never this variety, so we'll see how they taste. They're usually really delicious, and so I'm looking forward to trying them. But this bed is one that I need for my peppers, and unfortunately these rutabagas are out of time. And so if they're out of time and I need that bed, then I'm not going to hold up my summer crop for something from the winter time. And they're not going to do very well anyway, honestly, from here on out, because we are going to reach the 90-degree mark and higher in the next couple of days, and they are already, the rutabagas are already infested with aphids just because of the yo-yo temperatures that we've had. Like a week ago it was 90, and then we had a couple nights this week that were in the 30s, and the plants are just stressed. So at this point I'm going to call it, I'm going to pull them, and small or not, they're going in my oven and on my plate. I've been having trouble with my neck the last few weeks, so I've been going to physical therapy, so I was a little bit late getting back home so that I could do this video, and it is probably almost 9 o'clock right now, and I am being blinded by the sun. I hope that this video is not too terrible when it comes to lighting. So anyway, back to the tomatoes. So this row behind me is a project that I'm doing for Seedsavers Exchange. So I'm doing a grow out for them. So Seedsavers Exchange gets donations of specific varieties that have been saved in certain geographical regions, usually by an individual or by families or by a small group of people. And they don't have a lot of the seeds, and they don't have information on the seeds. And what they need is gardeners to help partner with them so that they can grow out some of these seeds and then collect more of the seeds from the fruit so that they can kind of build up their stock, as well as collect information on the variety, since they really don't have a lot of information. And that is the case with these tomatoes that are under here. These are called the Setzer hot dog tomato, and they are said to be hot dog shaped, and that is pretty much all the information. They don't know if they're indeterminate or determinate. They don't know really about the flavor, about the best use, about the growth habit. They literally know nothing about it. And so this is going to be kind of a fun thing to see. Of course, I had a few different choices that I could have made, but when they said that this was a hot dog shaped fruit, I was like, that is so weird. I have to try it. And so I have to admit that the plants have been pretty fussy, actually. I've had a lot of trouble with them. They were very, very prone to damping off inside, even though I tried to run the fan and I tried to make sure that I was spritzing the top of the soil with a diluted hydrogen peroxide. I was just doing all sorts of things to try to avoid any kind of a fungal problem, but they seem like they were very susceptible to that. The other thing is that when I put them out, a few of them did not transplant well. They were really, really susceptible to transplant shock. I covered them, I watered them, I just babied them. I planted them on the warmest days, and they just were babies. So I've lost a few, but I've got a lot. So let's take a peek. So the first thing that you may notice is that it's really hard to see the tomatoes in there. There are tomato baskets and there are tomatoes, but I've also got them interplanted with my carrots. You can see one of the tomatoes here. They've gotten quite a bit bigger, so they're looking pretty good. But in between, I have my carrots. And the reason for that is because the carrots are finishing up, and by the time I harvest those, the tomatoes will just be getting big enough to need that space. So what I've done is I have spaced them about 18 inches apart, and in between the front row right here and the back row, I've got them planted in a zigzag pattern, and that just maximizes the space. So if you plant in a zigzag rather than a straight line, you can get more plants into the same space. So that's what I've done. And I've actually been sneaking some of these carrots, and they are really good, y'all, really good. Let's look at all those little floofy carrot fronds. I love that. I've been sneaking a bunch of them. If I can find a good carrot, I will pull it for you so that you can see it. But I'm trying to be much better about putting my tomato baskets on at the same time that I plant my tomatoes this year, because I did my fair share of wrestling tomatoes that were too big and risked breaking them last year, and I swore I would not do that this year. So I've been doing a little bit better job. Oh, remember I was saying that we've been getting quite a few very inconsistent temperatures? Well, this carrot has decided it did not like that, and it is going to flower. And you know what? It usually gets pretty woody and pretty bitter at that point when it starts to flower, but the pollinators love these, and I love them too. They're beautiful bloom. So I'm gonna let that little guy stay, and I will let him flower, and maybe I'll collect some seeds off of him too. So far, these Setzer hot dog tomatoes are very droopy and very, they remind me a little bit of a paste tomato called a striped Roman, I think it was called. And that one was also incredibly fussy. It was very prone to blossom end rot. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on these, because I have a feeling that these are gonna be the exact same way. Oh, I see a little bloom here. I've got some of these lettuces are starting to bolt too. So I'm going to be making a lot of salads this week, because with the 90 degrees coming up, these are not going to last for very long. I had the row cover stretched between all three of these because I was honestly lazy and I didn't want to do 3 separate row covers, but also I didn't want to cut into that one because it's a really nice long one. So this one, I've actually got tomatoes growing here, but I noticed today when I took that row cover off that this has been nipped down. So I'm not sure what did that. Could be a cutworm, although I haven't seen any cutworm activity in my garden yet. It almost looks a bit like maybe a rodent. So that one is a goner for sure. This bed I'm really excited about because these beets are a very small version. I think they're called baby ball beets. So those will only be about 2 inches around. These are getting pretty close, really. These are going to be yummy greens to eat too. If you grow beets, use the greens as a spinach or a chard, and it's delicious. And then you can use the entire plant and not waste it. But look at these beautiful lettuces. I want to show you this one over here because it has formed a really, really nice little compact head and so adorable. I think that has lunch written all over it for sure. I've got some more beets in here. I've got a little bit of kale that's got a serious aphid problem I'm noticing. Some chard, and of course the fennel that I just let grow because it's a great larval host plant for the butterflies. And then once the fennel starts blooming, it's really, really good for native bees and other pollinators in the garden. So that gets to stay. But otherwise for this bed, I'm gonna be clearing a lot of this out. I'll harvest this lettuce, I'll harvest the beets, clear the majority of that out. And this is going to be for some peppers, which is so exciting. I've got over here more tomatoes. It looks like those are doing fairly well. This one's got tomatoes under it too. I forgot to tell you that over the weekend I also harvested a ton of cabbages. I think I brought in maybe 8 heads of cabbage. I already had 4 in the house, and I've got like 3 more left in the bed that are just finishing up. I think I'm gonna make some sauerkraut because there is no way I'm gonna be able to eat that much cabbage in time. And I love homemade sauerkraut. It's so easy and so cheap to make. And a really high quality fresh sauerkraut from the store is really expensive. So I'm definitely making that, especially with food prices being like they are right now. Nothing is cheap. All of my artichokes are doing really, really well. Too early yet for them to start forming the flower, but I think these are such pretty plants, don't you? Some of the flower seeds that I scattered, the linaria and the bachelor's buttons, are doing really good. The bachelor's buttons really seem to like my yard. They always do such a great job. I have some volunteer peas that I just left because who doesn't love a beautiful pea bloom and a nice crunchy pea for the salad? I think they actually work pretty well in here. These are poppies, so I honestly just dumped a bunch of old seed into this bed, and some of it germinated and some of it didn't. I just sowed some zinnias and some cosmos and gomphrena and celosia for the summertime, so hopefully those will take their place. I've got a mixed planting of potatoes and parsnips here, and I was actually peeking to see if the parsnips were starting to form a root. Let's look down here. Yes. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's pretty far down. Anyway, I can see weight peeking out there. So he's not ready yet, but soon. So I'm really, really excited about these potatoes. I harvested some fingerling potatoes already that I had grown in a pot. And I got quite a few actually, probably about 5 pounds just from one pot. And I'd say that was pretty good. I'm trying to step away from the plastic-based shade cloth because I noticed that it has been shedding plastic fibers, and I really don't want to have plastic in my soil. And so I'm trying to just kind of phase all of that out. So I'm experimenting with the burlap. I bought a ton of burlap, and I'm going to be using that as a shade cloth alternative, and hopefully it will work really well. It is a natural product, and I noticed that as it gets wet, it tends to break down as well because it is just natural fiber, and that's fine. I'm okay with replacing that every few years. So we'll see how long it lasts and if it works as the shade cloth, and I'll let you know about that. But I'm just hoping that I can use less plastic in here, because who wants to be eating plastic particles when they're harvesting vegetables they took the time to grow? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So we'll see. Yes, I did keep one of the tubs of nasturtiums, as I admitted. Those are hardening off right now. I'm going to remove those. But these beds are waiting for their marigolds for the year, as well as this kale. But the ones that do not have the root knot nematodes are already planted. So I should explain, because I said I was not going to plant anything big in these tubs this year. I was going to try to keep it nice and tidy. But these are volunteers. They're already starting to form their flower head, although they have not bloomed yet. But those will be done in just a few weeks. And so then I will cut them out, and then I will keep my promise of only having small things. So let's peek underneath this shade cloth. I'm really just hardening off things right as I plant them, rather than trying to carry the trays in and out. But this entire tub is several different kinds of eggplant. I've got patio baby in here, I have fairy tale, and then I've also got one called jewel amethyst. The jewel amethyst is a new one for me this year, and I'm pretty excited to try it. It's supposed to be really good for containers. So once those sunflowers are gone, I will just cut the stem right at the soil line, leave the root in place because that's great for soil, and then it will just be eggplants. I've got tomatoes under this one, and tomatoes under this one, and tomatoes under this one too. So really, oh yeah, and tomatoes under this one. Pardon my mess here. I'm clearing out all those shade cloths. But these are actually the dwarf tomatoes that I grew. I gotta show you this, y'all. These are so cute. Look at that tiny little tomato. And it's already got fruit on it. And these are supposed to be super small like this. This tomato plant right now that we're looking at is probably only 8 inches tall. And it'll get bushier, but really not a whole lot taller. And I actually got 18 tomatoes in the stock tank, and they should all fit nicely. All right, let's go check out a couple of other things that I want to show you before I let you go. All of the rosemary is starting to bloom. I've got like 6 or 7 rosemary plants over here, and the honeybees have been all over these, as well as the Spanish lavender. The Spanish lavender is so pretty. It comes back every year. And the bees love it, the honeybees. They actually don't normally bother me too much, but when I mess with their lavender, they do not like that. They kind of get a little bit fussy with me. So this is my clearance rack Home Depot lavender. I got it a couple years ago, and it comes back every year, and I think they cost me $5 each. So I'd say that's a pretty good deal. Let's look how pretty those peas are, y'all. So, so pretty. But you know what's even better is these. I love these. I have been picking them like crazy, but you know what's the best part is that these peas planted themselves. I was going through some pea vines because I use them as mulch when they dry, and I obviously missed quite a few seeds because anywhere there's a little bit of water, they are just popping up, and I love them because I've been getting a bonus harvest with none of the work. All right, I think that is about it. I'm gonna be back next time to let you know exactly what I'm planting, both what I'm planting directly by seed out in the garden and what transplants I'm setting out in the garden, just to try to help keep you on track. I've gotten a ton of emails here recently with people asking, you know, if they could plant this or that. So I just wanna make sure that I help you stay on schedule because time is so important here in the desert. People think, oh, well, you can grow year round, and you can, but you can't grow everything all the time. And if you miss the window, you've got to wait till the next time. So it's really important. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening.